Hello again everybody, and welcome back to another one of my famous videos. Today I have a guest speaker with me. He is TG and he is a good buddy of mine.
Hello, everyone.
Today we're going to be doing a thinking experiment pertaining to intelligence. And the reason why I'm doing intelligence with TG here is we've somewhat gotten into debates about this while we're gaming or just talking, and it's led to some pretty interesting conversations and to pretty interesting places that I think would be kind of neat to have in a video. So here we are. So as you can see in the left, with the little botched on my part, we have what we're going to talk about as well as some additional information to help. So first off, what is intelligence? Well, dictionary.com defines it as the capacity for learning, reasoning, understanding, and similar forms of mental activity, aptitude in grasping truths, relationships, facts, or meanings, etc. Now, me personally, I can't find much disagreement with what that definition is. How about you, TG?
No, I completely agree with that definition. And I think that all the ones below it are just different ways that you can use the word intelligence in sentence,
You mean
is
like
pretty much
Christian
how it defines
Science?
it. Right.
Oh,
Or
God.
how it goes to government, the military intelligence, naval intelligence, not to be oxymoronic, but
Well, I mean, if you really want to talk military and intelligence, wouldn't the Marines be kind of your,
well, see, they don't have marine intelligence. Naval intelligence.
I'm sorry, Lieutenant, how many times did you get your squadrons lost again?
Never.
Sure.
Uh,
And yes, TG here is a vet. He was a lieutenant, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. Army, artillery.
No, artillery, yeah, that's right. So, without further ado, let's dive into this, as we've got quite a lot to discuss. Um,
Let's go ahead and start with the next thing that you have written down. Is it subjective or objective?
right.
And I'll let you go ahead and make your first
Oh, gee,
statement
you're
on that.
so kind. Why, thank you.
Ladies first.
Blow me. Is it subjective or objective? Ah, I'd say it's a combination of both, but it, I'd say it's hard to describe because you can look at someone and be like, man, they're just fucking retarded. And then you look at someone else and say, oh, they're incredibly smart, but there would be, you wouldn't have a measure to go by that. They could just be parroting what someone said and not have any knowledge, or sorry, not knowledge, understanding of what they're saying. So that's why I think I'd lean more towards intelligence being objective rather than being subjective. I know you've got a different ideology in terms of that, so why don't you tell us?
Okay, I guess I could see how, yes, it's a combination of both, or you could look at it from both perspectives. An objective perspective would be IQ tests. Even though they're man made, it is meant to create some standardization of the intelligence measurement, you know, but subjective. And I've made this argument before, but say you have an expert in science. He's went to college for it, 8 years. And then you've got an expert in engineering, went to college for that for 8 years. They're both very intellectually smart in their fields, but they might not know anything about the other fields. So that's one way that if the engineer stepped into the scientist world, he could be looked at as not intelligent. But he does have intelligence just in a whole different area. And that is where I think it could be subject.
Yeah, I've heard that position from you numerous times already, and I still argue that wouldn't that be more related to knowledge rather than intelligence? Because
Mm,
knowledge, well, take I'm studying accounting right now, and I'm just about through with my schooling. And it's a specialized knowledge, really. I could go into an accounting field such as tax, and fuck all you little shitheads who think accounting is only tax. I know you're out there. Fuck you little shits. Audits, forensic accounting. I could do like payroll specials, accounts receivable specials, and all this other stuff that would require just specialized knowledge, not necessarily have a high intelligence in order to do it, but just to know what needs to be done. And I think
So looking
that's
at
where
it
you're
from an
coming.
objective point of view, from what you're saying, is that that would still be objective because they both had the capacity and ability to become in or acquire that knowledge in each field. Is what you're saying, right?
Somewhat. What I mean by objective is, as you said, the IQ tests. I think that's a fairly objective, and we're going all over the place with the agenda, but we'll go into delve into this a little bit later. And seeing as how IQ can be measured, that's kind of where I'm coming from. Is that if it can be measured, then there's got to be some sort of objectivity to it. Because I think the IQ tests are at least the more reasonable ones, not the ones you'll find online and say, "Oh, congratulations, you're a genius." And anyway,
See,
seeing as
I'd
how
have to
those are more
stop you for
reliable in what they measure.
things that can be measured aren't necessarily 100% objective. Take temperature, for example. It can be measured, but what's hot to me and what's hot to you are two different numbers. What's cold to me and what's cold to you are two different numbers. That's where it's subjective. And I guess intelligence, from a subjective point, could be how other people view you as intelligent. You know,
Yeah,
uh,
and just not to
say I
say,
could see a guy as being very smart, very book smart, but having no common sense. I'm sure you've heard that or seen that examples in your life, correct?
well, again, this is where I kind of come from on the subjective part too, is I consider common sense to be somewhat intelligent. I mean, I don't think that you can be intelligent and not have common sense. That's why I think by
Common.
that's why I mean, or that's why I think by definition that in order to be intelligent, you have to have common sense, is that it's a precursor to it.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a common sense is a completely other topic that I'm going to be going into later on, so that's a
Good, good,
different
because
video.
I common sense is not all that common anymore. But
Hey, don't take away from my joke, bastard. So yeah, that's so it's I would say whether we view people as intelligent or not, with your weather example or temperature example,
mhm.
it's subjective in that part because it's all how we view people. We could see someone with, say, 160 IQ, which, if I'm not mistaken, is the Mensa requirement for being a genius. And you could see people saying that, oh, they're intelligent, they're smart, while some others,
Say he's a bad driver. That fucking dumbass. You know, or anybody can be super intelligent, but can be perceived as an idiot. Because
yes,
yeah,
instead of driving, for example, everyone has got stories about bad drivers. And let me tell you something: if you don't have a story about bad drivers, newsflash, you
you
are the
are the
bad
bad driver.
driver. God, it just. Oh, yeah, you are right on that. Is they could be incredibly smart or intelligent. I don't want to interchange smart and intelligence because those are two different things. I want to make
Let's
that clear.
compare the definitions. I want to pull up smart right now.
Go ahead. What I I'll get to that later on the definition of smart. But yeah, it's all relative on how we perceive it, but the objective nature of it is we can measure it and we can say without a doubt, like, here's the line for being a genius, here's the line at average, and I don't think people would be calling an average someone who is of average IQ intelligent. I think they'd be
Okay,
leaning more towards people who are in the higher percentile. I don't know what percentile people start calling others intelligent. Maybe it's the 75th or 85th. I don't know. But you yourself wouldn't be calling someone that has an average IQ intelligent, would you? I mean, that has, and we're going back to the definition listed above, that has an average capacity for learning, reasoning, understanding similar forms of mental activities. You wouldn't be calling someone like that intelligent. You'd be calling people who have a higher capacity for learning, reasoning, yada yada yada.
Mm, I could call someone of average by having an average IQ. I could call someone intelligent if they had put time and effort into studying a specific topic, and say we got in that conversation and they just knew a lot more than me, I would consider him intelligent because he put forth effort towards making himself better, which kind of goes to our next topic, the nature versus nurture. But there's one more thing I want to hit on here before we head on to that. Um, the problem that I have with objective intelligence, it's a man-made measurement. Say, for example, you got a 160 on an IQ test. I got a 159. Okay? A 1 point difference. Does that automatically rate you as superior, higher intelligence, or is it a flaw in the test?
Well, that is a good question. It could just be saying that we're close enough to being equal, or that we are of equal intelligence at that point. Because I think there is, and please, if there's someone that does know more about this in the comments or who is watching, please correct me on this. Um, is that there is some wiggle room with IQ tests in that it's not 100% as you say dead on, but I think there is a several points, or maybe like a 5 points, give or take in tests. So saying that there's a 1 point difference could be essentially the same as saying that, hey, look, they're of equal intelligence, or that they're close enough in intelligence that the IQ test doesn't really make a difference here.
Right, and
But
I'll agree with that.
and that's and that's it's still being measured though, and the whole IQ test could just be based off of like one question or one part of a question that maybe wasn't in your strong suit. And so you didn't do
Right.
as well on that, but if you take another IQ test with a heavier emphasis on what you're more specialized in, or what you're more knowledgeable in, I guess. I hate to use that term considering it's one of our fucking topics. Then you do better. So but overall, that's where I say that IQ tests are reliable in what they measure, is that you're still not going to get like a 10-point difference in an IQ test varying based off of test on test. That means
I
that,
see what you're saying. So you're
yeah,
saying IQ tests are a reliable test, but not it's not an objective test.
it's not really a
Objective
verifiable.
is fact, unbiased, unchanging. That is objective. So I guess I'd say a more reliable test of intelligence. And I can agree with that better.
And that's, again, audience, I am sorry. We have been having some technical difficulties even before starting this. I don't know how to change it. Uh,
I'm having that robot voice again.
yeah, unfortunately. So I don't know
Okay.
if it's transmission is going to be transmitting the same. So if TG's voice appears to be degrading or going domo arigato Mr. Roboto on us, uh, I do want to say again, I do apologize for that. Just you're gonna have to bear with it.
I'm closing out some background programs to make that'll help a little bit.
Clearing out the porn, huh? It's okay, man.
Can't
I
watch
won't.
porn during the talk.
It's okay, man. I won't tell him that you like the lollies.
I didn't know what a lolly was till you told me.
Yeah.
Anyways, nature versus nurture.
Yeah, and this is going to boil down to, is intelligence
What you're
based?
born with and what you attain.
Pretty much, yeah. Is it genetic, or is it something that we can improve upon? Seeing as how I started with the first one, why don't you go with this one and start.
Okay, well, I definitely have to say that this is a combination of both. As far as what takes more impact, I would have to go with nurture for sure. You know, you can be born with quick capacity thinking, uh, easy to pick up on knowledge, but if you, I've read this somewhere before, but smarter people are more likely to be lazy because they know how to manipulate themselves out of work and out of trying hard. So, say that's a natural smart person. Now, take nurture,
Person. That's smart.
intelligent,
Intelligent.
yes. Now, take a person who was not born intelligent. You know, they didn't pick up on everything. So they had to work for it harder. They had to study, read books, browse online. So they put more effort into it. So they might not have started on the same playing field, but I believe the person that nurtured himself into higher intelligence would eventually surpass the other because of his putting forth effort. And he's going to come across other things that a naturally intelligent person would have never seen just through his studies. So that's my argument on it.
Right, and I agree with you to a certain extent. Um, I also remember reading somewhere on average, and keep in mind this is going based off of averages. I'm not saying that any one individual is this or that, but as a collective
Right, there's
average,
always outstanding circumstances. Yeah.
yes, there will always be the outliers. So on average, did you know that Asians are smarter than white people? Have a higher IQ than those who are white?
And that's because of their school system.
I'd, I'd argue that's more based off of their culture rather than school system. However,
Well,
then
their school
let's
system is revolved around their culture. But keep going.
eh, fucking weebs. All right then. How about this? See, whites are the have the third highest IQ. The first being Asians, the second being Jews.
Where do
Two,
black people fall on the scale?
yeah. Blacks fall on the lowest side of the spectrum. They are under
And
Latinos and whites and all that other stuff.
really, I didn't think they were under those, but
Yep.
okay.
So yeah, it's and I found that interesting because I think that leads to genetics, but at the same time, I agree with you that I think it's both, and that I think that a big part of this disparaging numbers is that it's has to do with culture. And as you said, a person who works harder than one who slacks off, will hopefully achieve more and have a better accomplishments in life. I agree with that statement. That's why
Right.
I'm of the belief also that if you have a person who is intelligent and is a hard worker, that there's going to be very little to stop them. But and I'm getting away from the topic on that. But we look at, say, the cultures in, take even the U.S. here, for example. We have a very distinctive black culture, and I guess, I hate to say white culture, but that's the case, though. That there is a difference between these two, and you look at Asian culture here in the U.S. as well. And by culture, just to clarify, I mean looking at like households and stuff like that. With whites and Asians, you see families staying more closer together. Uh, while there is such a high divorce rate right now, the father figures are still effective in their child's lives, and their mothers are also effective in their child's lives as well. And this is the case for both whites and Asians. Now, blacks, isn't it something like over 50% of black youths don't know who their father is? So you look at the black family though, and you look at Detroit, you look at Chicago, you look at these rundown places or these ghettos really, and you see a lot of single mothers and just broken families essentially, and it has been proven with studies over the course of decades that having two parents in the child's lives has a beneficial impact on it. So long as, they're not beating or raping or just utterly fucking the child up, that they have a positive influence on that child's life. And I think that's where the intelligence would come from. So uh, if people followed the whole ideal of like working hard, sticking to your convictions and stuff like that, that IQ would probably continue to rise on average. That I don't think it's
Can I stop
just
you right here?
sure.
Okay. Let's take my upbringing, for example. I came from a single parent family. You know, I never lived with my dad. But, so this kind of makes a good point on the nature versus nurture. It's just something to think about. You know, my dad was a real smart guy. He went to college, you know, graduated as a mechanical engineer. My mom, she basically had to work to provide for me and her throughout her whole life. Finally went to college and just got an associate's degree. But she always had to study a lot harder, you know? So she didn't have the college education while she was bringing me up. She was just working all the time. I was basically at the house by myself. But this kind of goes in the nature favor. You know, did I get being higher than average intelligence from my dad, who wasn't actually around all the time, but I still have his genes in my body, you know, and I pick things up faster than my mom does. But at the same time, if he had been around, would I've been nurtured to be even higher intelligence than I currently am? I don't really have anything factual about this. It's just, I thought it was a good point to throw out there since you were comparing the white and black communities. You know, it's, by your definition almost, I kind of have fallen into a generalized black family definition, but have still achieved outlier results, right?
Yeah.
So
The question.
that would kind of make me lean towards it is definitely a combination of nature versus nurture, but I
Yeah.
still am settled on nurture being more important.
So you're more for
Did,
genetics then?
no. I'm saying nature and nurture are both important, but I still think nurture is more
Yeah.
impactful.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to get a clear understanding. You're saying that you think that genetics, that nurture has a more of an impact on intelligence than the environment does. Or no, I'm sorry, I'm completely wrong on that. I'm sorry.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's what's throwing me off.
God, yeah, I just blanked out on that.
Yeah, no
Yeah,
problem.
you're for the environment. You're not for
Right,
genetics. You're for the environment.
correct. And one other thing I wanted to touch on, uh, as far as the nature versus nurture goes, you were talking about different races having different rankings. Okay, let's go back to just comparing white and blacks, since most people that are going to be watching this are Americans. And that's the main contrast that I see where I live. I don't see many Asians around here. But
Racist.
just saying I don't see them.
What are you
There
saying?
aren't many around.
What are you
Okay.
saying that they just all look alike? That they just blend into the background? Man, you are
No,
racist.
if I was being racist, I would say they couldn't see me.
Well, maybe they. I'm not gonna go down that route.
Okay.
uh,
Anyways,
but continue. I'm
uh,
sorry.
hold on, let me get my thoughts together again. We'll edit this part. Okay. Taking white families and black families, kind of comparing them. You know, slavery hasn't been over for that long. Okay. And comparing a white child to a black child, it's can be objectively compared for sure. I don't have everything written out in front of me, but white people are usually born into more knowledge because their parents have had the privilege of having more knowledge, gaining it through nature or nurture. But the child is born into a smarter family. Now, a black child, say born 10 years after slavery ended, wasn't born into a very intelligent position. He only knows what his mom and dad have taught him for the most part and what abilities he was born with to learn further. But if he is steered by his mom and dad in the wrong direction, like, oh, your dad's been a mechanic his whole life, he can teach you everything about that. Your mom's been a housemaid her whole life, she can teach you how to clean. If that's all he's going to learn and he doesn't have the opportunities to further his education, then that's almost at no fault to his own. Do you understand what point I'm making?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's and going back to your example, not to nitpick on it, but you have to also understand that the vast majority of white people also weren't really educated. It was mainly the wealthy, those who could actually send their child off to those schools that could do it. And while you are
Right.
right that the recently freed blacks didn't have the same opportunities as whites because of a whole bunch of bullshit politics and legislative that had gone on, they didn't have the same educational opportunities that other whites did. And I fully agree with you on that. However, it's not to say that blacks couldn't learn in that environment. It would have been incredibly difficult, and they most likely would have had to have been an outlier in that situation to bust their ass off. However, we fast forward now to present day, and there's keep in mind is that let's go with this first. Would you say that in terms of opportunity that there is largely very little to no discrimination going on right now? Would you say that?
No,
So you would
no. I think that there is
oh
very big differences in opportunity right
different
now. Yes.
okay different video or conversation for another time.
Okay.
But no, you look at it now. Can blacks go to the same school as whites and vice versa? Can they do that right now?
Legally, yes.
Okay. So they can obtain the same kind of education, the same kind of education that other whites can, or Asians or Latinos. I'm not just going to pick on one race here. However, and this goes also back to legislative problems. Uh, Thanks to some issues and some legislation that was passed, the nuclear black family was essentially uh, disintegrated for the most part uh, due to a president piece of legislation. And through that, you saw
What was
more
that
broken
piece of
families.
legislation?
Again,
I'm not
I
familiar with
just
that
want to
part.
focus on the topics here.
Okay.
I'll tell you after we're
Tell me
done
about that later.
recording.
Okay.
Yeah. And that kind of that changed up the culture around the nuclear family. And the same thing can be said about whites as well, is that this did also impact white families as well. Not to the extent of the black family, but it still has had an impact. And so I think it's because of this shift in culture that that's kind of this not downfall, but this parity between IQ numbers is present. And that if we go back and try to restore the nuclear family in general, mind you, that I think will have a much greater or a much better impact in terms of intelligence. Because
I
as
agree with what you're saying. I think that this would be a great transition part into the 9 types of intelligence. If you want to hit on that, can
uh,
you pull it up on the?
you're you're gonna have to pull it up.
Oh, I'll send you the.
No, just oh,
Oh, I was going to let you show it to the stream or the
go for
video.
it. Yeah, post it in the message board here.
Okay.
And again, we still have the technical difficulties. I don't know what's going on with it.
Is it
Sometimes you're
still over
good.
about voice?
Yeah. Okay, so I've got it pulled up here. So we've
Okay.
got spatial, which is visualizing. I'm not gonna fucking go over each of these. The audience here is
Right. Right.
literate; they
Just
can read it all.
right. Right.
And for the most part, I can agree with some of these. Interpersonal, for example, sensing people's feelings and motives. That's I think that's what people could say that is they're people smart. That's where that
Right.
comes from. You have people
And
smart, and then you have book smart.
linguistic book writers, bodily kinesthetic, any type of athlete,
I don't know about
interpersonal.
bodily kinesthetic. I don't know if that would be a type of intelligence.
Mm,
That's one of the things I have a problem with is I don't, or that I disagree with, not a problem, but I disagree with because I don't see that as a form of intelligence. I see that as years of training. I see that more as knowledge, or rather muscle memory, if we really want to go and delve into it.
yeah, that could
Existential,
be a good back and forth argument.
yeah. And then we go into existential, which is, oh,
Which I could see
fuck
as
off,
more
Windows.
philosophy.
Yeah, which is philosophy. Logical and mathematical, qualifying things, making hypotheses, and proving them. Yeah, we go back to our definition of it, and yeah, that somewhat fits into it. That's I would say that is more of a intelligence versus a knowledge, or rather knowledge. Musical. Um, I, I think musical is combination of both because I played the viola for 2 or 3 years and I got to the point to where I could like listen to an orchestra play, and I could imagine in my mind while I'm bowing along the notes, the fingering position, and all of that. And I don't think that was just sheer intelligence. I think that was knowledge of knowing the notes, knowing how the movements work, and all that.
I would have to argue with that because I was in band for 4 years and never got good at my instrument. I played the French horn for 2 years and the quads for 2 years, and I was just mediocre. Never got really good, and maybe that was just me not putting enough effort in. But there's other things that I pick up on very quickly. It comes easy to me.
Yeah, I get you. The naturalist understanding living things and reading nature. That is what we call hippies.
I like being a hippie. Oh no, I'm an
Spatial.
outdoors person.
Yeah. Spatial, visualizing the world in 3D. Yeah, that's. I think that's getting close to being a genius, essentially, or being able to really recognize different patterns. And I'm not just talking shapes and patterns. I'm talking like patterns in information and stuff with mathematical equations and stuff like that.
Right.
You,
I wouldn't call that getting into genius. My spatial intelligence is pretty high. And I don't consider myself a genius by far, is what I'm saying.
and then we move on to intrapersonal, which is understanding yourself, what you feel, and what you. Fuck right off, Windows 7. Don't show this message. I click on that 3 times already. Keep changes and make sure this thing doesn't pop up again. But what does it do? It pops up again! Okay, so intrapersonal. Understanding yourself, what you feel, and what you want. Now, is that really. Would you consider that to be intelligence as well?
Which one did you say? Intrapersonal?
Yeah, intrapersonal.
Okay. Yeah.
Under-
I call that emotional IQ. That's what I've always called it.
I, again, I don't think I can fully agree with that, but at the same time, I can't like fully disagree with it either.
Say, okay, here's an example. Say businessmen, CEOs, they usually know exactly what they want, what to go for, how to get it. And then you've got some people in life who struggle to get by because they never know what direction to take off. That's why I see that as being an intelligent.
I see, but that's well, I can't really chalk that up to you can't chalk that up to experience. But as you say with CEOs though, what they want, how to succeed, that's more plotting a path in life. And that
Or
could
having that intelligence is what got them to that position.
but anyone can plot a path though to what they want.
Mm, not necessarily. I would disagree.
So you're saying that not everyone can plan a path to what they want, or to what they want to, or what they want to accomplish.
That's
There's, you know,
exactly what I'm saying. I've met some people that have no goals in life. Their goal is just to get by. They're living paycheck to paycheck. Don't have any need or desire for anything higher.
so yeah, wouldn't that be their goal then?
Mm,
Wouldn't they have achieved that? Because if you
I
say they
guess
don't want,
in a way they're far ahead of than us.
yeah, then that's again another fucking topic for another video.
Yeah.
And it's, oh yeah, that's a lot of these.
A lot of this is debatable.
It is. It really is. The logical and
Okay, what?
mathematical is more like the book smart that we were talking about, whereas, say, the interpersonal is the street smart, sort of.
Well, let me ask you this: if you could add anything to this, what would you add, or what would you? You've already kind of said what you would take away, but what would you add as a type of intelligence?
I don't know if I'd add anything. I'd probably rewrite some of it rather than like the logical and mathematical one. I'd do more of an all-encompassing one. Like you can absorb knowledge, you can understand how to apply it, how it works, and stuff like that. Now I
I
don't.
would add. Go ahead.
No, you go.
Okay, I would add some definition of creativity, imagination, ingenuity, some combination of those three. The ability to create something new that hasn't been created before.
Now, couldn't that fall under the visualization,
Whereas
the 3D,
spatial?
yeah, spatial, visualizing the world in 3D? Couldn't that be
No, I
the
think
same
that's a
thing?
whole different thing.
Okay. Well,
Like you said, spatial, I kind of agree with what you said as far as recognizing patterns, but as far as creating something new, an idea out of thin air, I think that's a different type of thing. To me, that almost takes into consideration a little bit of everything and creating it into one.
okay. And I guess this isn't exactly the best segue, but let's move on to the next topic, intelligence or knowledge. Seeing as how we've gone into this topic, and
What's the
we've,
video time at now?
hell, I don't know.
Okay.
We've gone into the topic. We've skirted around the topic. We even bought the topic dinner, but we never took it home and just,
Well, let's take her home and bang her.
well, I mean, if you want to do the devil's three-way, but remember, I will look you in the eye, motherfucker, and I will stare to make sure you know of my dominance.
Dominant is okay.
Hey, baby, you know it's true. Don't hate me. Uh, so, intelligence or knowledge, or rather, intelligence versus knowledge. And this is something that, if our listeners have been paying attention to, has probably picked up that we've talked about this a little bit earlier on. So let's go full blown into this.
Let
Now,
me go ahead and. Intelligence is the ability to gain knowledge.
pretty much, yeah.
Next topic. No,
No,
go ahead.
fuck you. But no, it's when I was talking about accounting, for example, in my profession, I was talking about the accounts payable, accounts receivable, and all this other stuff pertaining to it, and that is more having to do with knowledge, whereas intelligence, you look at the definition that we have posted up here, and like we'll take accounts receivable processing for example. It has nothing to do with capacity for learning, for reasoning, or understanding, or anything other to do. You could make the case of probably pertaining to mental activity, maybe, but that would be a stretch. And that's because that involves knowledge. As you said, intelligence is the ability to gather knowledge, essentially. And that's where I think a lot of what you were saying before was more pertaining to knowledge rather than intelligence. Psst, TG, that's usually
Oh,
your
did you ask
cue
me?
to talk.
Did you ask me something? I thought you just stated something.
Yeah, I was just making a statement. I was expecting you to pick it
Oh,
up.
oh. What
God,
was the
you're
statement
just the
again?
worst co-host ever.
Sorry, I was reading ahead. Okay, I was trying to figure out about how to transition into how to measure it. I thought I
Uh,
already solved the intelligence knowledge debate.
no, man, we're gonna beat this
I
to
was just
death.
letting you ramble.
You are such a fucking asshole. God. Yeah,
Sorry,
no.
I just wanted a quickie with it, but you wanted to drag it all out, you know.
Well, I'm sorry if I don't like it fast like you do. Maybe because I can actually last longer than 5 freaking seconds. Oh yeah, and for
Still got it
everyone
done.
listening, TG is getting all of his information from articles. This isn't off the top of his head. This is, and what you can see on my screen is what we've been through.
Oh, you're showing them all the articles.
Nope. But
What are
thanks
you
for pointing
showing?
out all the articles that you're watching. Oh, God. Alright, so what's your comment on the whole knowledge versus intelligence?
I already said it. Um,
This is why we can't have nice things.
I mean, I didn't get that from an article either. I mean, I
And
think I've
that's
already said everything that needed to be said. You know, keep it short, simple, to the point. But if I
well,
could go deeper on it, I
oh
would
yeah, you
say,
go deeper.
okay,
You go
here I
deeper.
just thought of something. Different types of knowledge may be more easily attained by people who possess different types of intelligence.
By different types of what? You kind of cut out
But,
there.
okay, different types of knowledge may be more easily attained by people who have different types of intelligence. Say you want to learn music. A person who has strong music intelligence could easily pick it up. I, for one, could not. But say you want to learn math. A person who's strong at math naturally or by nurture will pick it up easier than another person. So there are different ways to measure, I guess, the strengths that you possess for what type of knowledge you're seeking.
Okay, I can see where you're coming from on that. And
But
all I,
besides that, I mean, I think I've said everything. I
oh,
could sit here and think and make up some more stuff. But
I was honestly hoping that that would be one of our more hotly contested topics, but seeing as
I
though
mean,
we
it's
kind of,
by definition, it's it's objective. It's black and white. It's you know.
that's what I was also telling you earlier before we were doing, even talking about doing this video though, is I think you're talking more so in knowledge than you are in intelligence. That's kind of the point that I was going to make in this topic, is that some people might be confused, might be mixing up intelligence with knowledge, and I think that confusion is could be fairly common. It's and that's what I mean by smart too, is you can have knowledge and you can just completely regurgitate it. That's what how I see smart. I don't see it as being intelligent. I see smart as not being knowledgeable. You can take something, you can completely regurgitate it, but you could not know how it works. You could not have an understanding of it. You could not even apply it to something else that would be just even a little bit different.
So you're saying someone who's spurting off knowledge has linguistic intelligence, but may not actually have the logical, mathematical intelligence to figure it out themselves. But see, I suck at history. I can't spout off dates of what happened, where it happened, or whatever. That's not my strong point. That's why I think the type of intelligence that you have suits the type of knowledge that you possess.
For spouting off dates, that could be someone could very well have a bloody, what's it called, photographic memory. I've met
Mm-hmm.
someone. My history professor was like that. He could just spout off dates and events like it was nothing. And granted, he had a huge interest in history. But anyways, as you say, it does depend on the person. However, now let's move on to the last topic: how to measure it. Now,
Oh yeah, we already did. Sorry, I skipped ahead like 4 topics. I didn't know you had types of intelligence on there.
God damn it. You said we were gonna have an intelligent conversation?
Mhm.
How many drinks have you had?
Honestly, this probably would have went better if I had some drinks.
Yeah, come on, man, don't lie. I know you. Come on. Come clean.
None.
Come clean, man, come on. Yeah, okay. So, how to measure it? Well, this one seems pretty cut and dry to me, and it's just essentially a test that people take. Usually an IQ test involves something like a logical puzzle, like probably one of my more favorite ones. What was it? May's mother has 4 daughters, April, June, and July. Who is the fourth daughter? And that can, I believe that's usually a multiple choice question. Something like that. Another thing can be like identifying patterns, uh, even counting, and just a whole range of other things. Some of it could be seen as common sense. Others could be seen as just something that you may have acquired over the years with your with experience or knowledge. But overall, it really comes down to the same thing as just it's taken in a test format. What what the content of the test is really subject
It
to the.
varies test to test.
Yeah, exactly. And as we discussed earlier, is that, well, as you pointed out, the 1 point IQ difference, could be the result of a test. And say if we took another test, and maybe, and then this time you got like a 162 versus my 159. So it wouldn't take away
Right.
from, it
We
wouldn't
would have
take,
to pretty much say that we were on the same level.
yeah.
Just yeah.
And that's something to look out for too. And again, if I didn't make this clear the first time, do not ever trust those online IQ tests. Granted,
I was about to suggest that we both take an IQ test and post our results.
well, I mean, we can do that afterwards.
Yeah.
Although, as long as it's one of my choosing. Nah, it's So yeah, that's. I guess that pretty much clears it up. This has been a pretty fun discussion for me. This has also been a topic that has been in my closet, so to speak, for a very long time, and something that I've been meaning to get to. And so,
So you finally brought it out of the closet with you?
well, not with me. I brought you along too.
No, I wasn't in your closet.
No, then what's that skeleton doing in there?
Mhm.
God,
Anyways,
that's a little concerning. Oh, I'll better take the Lincoln log jammed up. Anyway, TG, thanks for joining me on this video.
yeah.
Also, this is TG's first video appearance on YouTube. Now, whether he starts another channel or not, well, it's gonna be up to him.
I don't really plan on starting my own channel. Not right now or in the near future.
So
But
you just plan on piggybacking off of mine for a little while then. Gotcha.
yeah, I'm gonna help you build your channel up and explode. Just split the profits in the end, alright?
Oh yeah, explode. Oh man. So yeah, again, TG, thanks for joining me, and hope to see you again next time.
Alright, and yeah, down to be back again.
And to all of my listeners, all probably 3 of you, thanks for joining us and staying with us. I know that we rambled a little bit, but until next time.